Welcome back to Cut and Splice. Um, I'm Gil. I'm here with Matt and Jason. How's it going, guys?
Eh,
Eh.
I could complain, but I won't.
Hopefully, that doesn't reflect on the movie, but we'll see.
I feel like to do this podcast, we should all be sweating.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, like talking in a southern accent,
Well, I
like
can't do that.
especially the who's his face is Kevin Spacey southern accent is very
Oh.
very thickly laid in this movie.
I love his accent in this movie.
Um, but yeah, so we're doing a time to kill. I don't know. I've had like interesting relationship to this movie. It had a very strong effect on me when I watched it way back when. I don't know if it was. It was probably because I was only 15 when it came out, so it was probably at a later point that I saw it. I don't think I saw it in theaters. Might have been even like the early 2000s, but I'm not sure. But all I know is that it was one of the only movies growing up that I cried in. So and I felt like that's something, you know. I mean, like not a lot of movies get me to cry. Nowadays, I cry over every little kids movies because I watched them with my kids, and my oldest is a very emotional movie watcher, and I vicariously through him I feel the emotions, so I get more emotional than I used to, which is good. Um, but yeah, and I know that there's, and I want to get your opinions, of course, on this. But like, I know that it's a John Grisham adaptation, which I just finished reading the book, which is another reason why I thought this would be interesting, just like compare and contrast slightly. And it seems like there was a weird relationship between just how good this movie really is, or is it just like kind of like a trashy novel type of quality material? Or how one of the reviewers said, like a casual beach reading material. Um, and it's interesting that it was actually Grisham's first book. I did not know that. Because it's kind
Oh,
of
I didn't know
like,
that.
because I feel like to write on your first book, you go into like the whole race war and like everything all at once. You kind of like just like a Citizen Kane style, just like I'm just gonna put everything in this, like and see what happens. And maybe like lack of experience shows the imperfections, some of the logic of the story and the moment to moment stuff. But I thought it was just worth exploring for that reason alone. Um, but yeah, so how when did you guys first watch it, and how was it to watch it again?
Um, well, um,
Well,
how to start this? I also had a weird sort of this movie was kind of special to me in a weird way. Um, I've always liked McConaughey a lot. Um, Although I it's kind of a messed up thing to say, but for many years of my life, I kind of saw him as like, you know, kind of like the persona he had in like Sahara and kind of like as that the guy in rom-coms, you know, like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, um, The Wedding Planner, stuff like that. I did really like him in his action movies like U571 and Frailty and stuff like that. But even though I liked him a lot, I just always thought of him as like this guy's an action movie and rom-com type of guy. And I had seen this movie on cable. Like I definitely didn't see it in theaters. But for many years, I would always say this was his greatest performance, like by far. I just really loved this performance, and I was like, I kind of said it in a shitty way, you know, like I like this actor a lot, but he'll never top this. It's kind of the way I used to kind of say it, you know, and even if not necessarily in those exact words. Now, I feel bad about having thought about him that way because now I just think he's like one of the best actors out there. I just really like him a lot. I think he's gone so far beyond this performance now, and continues to do so pretty regularly. But but yeah, this is a movie that I always really liked. I love movies with really big and really stacked casts, and this movie has a stellar cast. Even in little roles that they don't need a great person for, they've got great people in all these little roles. But I just really like this movie a lot. For the longest time, I had never seen the beginning of it. Because I saw it like 2 or 3 times on cable, like spread out over years. But obviously, I'll go into a lot more details later on about how the rest of the movie affected me. But that's kind of how I saw this movie originally. And I think maybe I would say by the mid 2000s, sometime around then, I finally, I don't know, I don't think I rented it. I'm not sure exactly how I saw it for the first time, like from the very beginning to the end, but definitely probably at least 15 years ago or so, maybe more. I finally just like watched the movie, and I've always loved it. Today for this recording, I was a little alarmed because this is just one of those movies that I felt like I always had. I felt like I had a DVD of this, and I searched my shelves and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I was thinking of like someone else's DVD collection or something. But yeah, I looked online and I saw that I could watch it, but I would have had to pay for it. So instead, I just went down to the used. I went down to Zia, it's a store nearby here, and I was able to get the Blu-ray was $5, and the DVD was $3. So I was like, you know, $2 more, get the Blu-ray. You know,
It's funny that you still do that. But
I mean, renting it would have been like $4. So it's like, you know,
well, it was free on Pluto TV, but it is annoying, especially because I watched it in 2 sittings. Because if you stop it halfway, forget the ads. That's one thing that's annoying. But you know, I've watched TV movies with ads all my life growing up on cable. But it's just like if you stop it halfway because it's a long movie, we needed 2 nights for it. To start from the same point, give us a hard time, but whatever, we overcame. Let's just say.
First world problems.
Matt.
Oh, I mean, you're a Jew. You've experienced more than first world problems. So, but
I've been
weird place to take it, but okay.
Well, I've been extremely fortunate. I was mostly like thinking about like we shall overcome in the whole black experience, considering the movie. but I know Jews have their problems in the world.
Yeah, but I don't remember my first time watching it, but I do know that I performed Kevin Spacey's final arguments from A Time to Kill in high school. So I
chose the bad guy.
Yeah, I chose the bad guy.
The tasty. Everybody likes a heavy.
Right. So I had to have seen it on VHS, like somewhere in the late 90s or something like that, or maybe early 2000s. But I don't know. It was really good for me to revisit this, and there's a lot more moral complexity to the movie that I didn't really apply when I was younger. Also, being that I actually have a jury duty summons for January 3rd. Like, you know, I'm kind of.
They gotcha.
Yeah, I'm going through my own brain.
I had it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, but there is a lot of moral complexity to that movie that I like. First of all, I think the filmmakers, including Joel Schumacher, who is not the greatest filmmaker on the face of the planet, may he rest in peace. Sorry. But, he had certain ideas going into the movie that I think in retrospect weren't adequately examined. But, so I think that he glossed over a few ideas that are really important, especially in today's era, that are cogent and important and difficult. But I mean, Joel Schumacher, no matter how you put it, he's known for probably the two worst Batman movies ever made. He's known for The Phantom of the Opera, which was okay, and so on and so forth. And otherwise, he's known for Tigerland, and he's known for this.
He's done a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was gonna say, like, is this like potentially his best movie? Because the only other ones that I would contend is Falling Down. Flatliners, I know, has a good reputation of sorts. Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, the Client, I guess, like, but there's another John Grisham. But yeah, I'm trying. 8mm.
Matt, why don't you finish your point, and then we'll discuss we'll discuss Schumacher in his own right.
Well, I would definitely say that this is one of Schumacher's best movies. That's all I'm saying.
I think most of us would probably agree with that.
Yeah.
One of his best for sure.
Right, and it's good. I mean, it's not 2001 or anything, but it's good. It's a solid freaking movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think he, the sense that I'm getting is that he didn't get in the way of the story. He let the story tell itself, in a way.
Yeah.
Like more so than what he's done in other of his movies, I would say.
Mm.
I was gonna say something before we talk about Schumacher. Also, it is interesting. It is about Schumacher, but like, the way it came about, the McConaughey. I heard the story, like he told the story in Howard Stern, but it's interesting because he read for a different part, for a smaller part, and he asked him who's playing the lawyer, and he said, oh, there's like a list of like stars that they want me to consider, and it's like, well, why don't you consider me? And he was like he wasn't a well-known actor.
No,
he wasn't been enough to But what had happened is that they'd already cast. What happened is a month or two later, Speed came out or something, and they had already cast Sandra Bullock, and all of a sudden she became a huge star. I think it was Speed, but one of the movies that made her like a huge star.
Probably would have been that one.
And she was already under contract to do this movie. And, her salary, everything was already like negotiated. So now they added a star in a fairly main role. So then Schumacher had the opportunity to go to the studios and say, listen, there's this young actor. I really like him. I think he might be right for this. And because we have Bullock and we have, like, aside from that, like a stellar cast. I mean, Sam Jackson wasn't very well known back then, but the who's of, like, the 90s basically was there, like in all the supporting cast. So he and Grisham had final say about casting. So he auditioned to Grisham and Schumacher, and Grisham gave the okay. So he got the part, and the rest is history. Like, that was his speed. That's like what this movie made McConaughey a star.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was definitely what pushed him out of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre type roles.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and that's Schumacher doing something daring, which that's what tends to be the case, like with foreign directors is, if nothing else, even if they tend to be fairly conventional directors, they you know, they have some chutzpah. They'll try things, and it's not always going to work, unfortunately. Like, he's had a lot of misses, but they swing for the fences. And in this specific case, it just everything, most of everything sort of hits in this movie. I feel like, and again, in a superficial, just solid storytelling, you know, it's got some substance to it. It's got some morality that we can get into it in the second half. But yeah, more than anything, the fact that he trusted, and I'm sure he auditioned him on it, is that final speech, that McConaughey has in the end. What's it called?
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that later on. But like,
Yeah,
that speech, which is part of the reason why this movie, I think, to me is, and I'll get into it, why this movie is so special. And it's only in a category of two. This and one other movie did this to me, that I can think of. Not The Crime, but a different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it.
I almost, without you even saying anything, I almost kind of know what you're talking about, and I agree.
Yeah. So and it would be interesting to, if you guess it, once we get into spoilers. But yeah, but that's all I was gonna say. And honestly, I don't have much to say about Schumacher, but I will say, I mean, this movie, I was leaning towards a 9, but I should probably stick to an 8 because there's definitely some problems in it. So it's a very, very good movie, but it's not an excellent movie. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
What's any thoughts about Schumacher or the rating?
I just looked. I wanted to see. Schumacher's one of those directors who I feel, all my life, like I knew. Obviously, he became a name to me when I saw Batman Forever. And now, as I, started get. I mean, I was pretty young then. 95. I was still, in grade school, but over the next 5 or 6 years, as I started watching a lot more movies, maybe I should say as I was allowed to watch more movies, I started realizing, oh, this guy's actually made a few movies that I'd seen. Like I eventually saw, Lost Boys and stuff like that, and I started realizing, oh, this is that guy. This is that guy. This is that guy. And he doesn't have he's definitely not like, I mean, he's kind of hit and miss, I feel, but his hits are pretty good. And some of his misses are really tragically bad. But I was surprised right now when I looked, because I would have guessed I'd seen about 7 of his movies. But I just looked down at his filmography. I've seen 13 of his movies, and some of them are not his biggest ones. Like I never saw the Number 23. I never saw what's that other one that was kind of a big one he did? The Client. Anyway, the point, all I was getting at is, if I had to look at his movies that I've seen, I was quickly putting them in a little list here. I'd say A Time to Kill is his best movie, followed closely by Tigerland. And then a little below all that would be Falling Down. Then I just kind of put a big clump of them. I don't know which one is better out of these, but I just kind of would think like St. Elmo's Fire, Lost Boys, Phone Booth, Batman Forever, and 8mm. All those movies have problems, but they're pretty solid. They're pretty decent, I should say. Maybe not solid, but they're definitely good movies to watch. I'd recommend them. And then like Bad Company, Phantom of the Opera, and Flatliners all definitely have certainly more problems than stellar things about them. And then below that, I'd put Cousins and Batman and Robin way below all that.
Yeah.
This movie I would probably put when I think about this movie, I think about it as a solid 8. But when I think about its positive things that I don't see in other movies that much, I kind of have to give it like a weak 9.
Like a high 8.
Or a weak 9.
Or a weak 9.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay, Matt?
I'm pretty much on the same line as Jason. I hate to layer my position over any kind of a, like, what is this movie trying to say veneer, but what is this movie trying to say? Because, like, part of the brilliance of the movie is that Jackie Earle Haley is 100% guilty under the law.
You talking about Carly Haley?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was about to click on it and go, wait a minute. So that is so close to right, but I'm not sure if that's the right name.
Carl,
Jackie.
sorry, Carl Lee Haley, right?
Yes.
All right, sorry. He's 100. Sorry, he
It's
is
not us you have to
100%.
apologize to.
Yeah. I mean, you just made Rorschach a murderer.
Yeah, Jackie Earle Haley.
All I was thinking of was little children.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
My apologies. Carl Earle Haley.
Carl Lee Haley.
Carl Lee Haley, son of a bitch, is 100% guilty by every state's law from when the movie was set to now. To now. I mean, like, he's 100% guilty in doing what he did. Okay, so the movie is trying to make the argument that he's innocent because, like, what moral person wouldn't do what he did? I'm still trying to figure out exactly what moral stance the movie is trying to take.
Well, it's definitely a spoilers thing, but I can just put the sound over this, so we'll be already in spoilers.
Okay,
I mean, no, because I feel like in order to have this discussion, this is gonna take a while, so it has to be the second half. But I definitely feel like
okay, so I'll just say 8 out of 10, and then you can move us.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't know. Like, give me a second. One thing I was gonna say is about that, if I can squeeze it in before we get into spoilers, is that what you're saying has to do with the way the critics looked at the movie, because it's got like a 54 Metascore, like a 5.4, and the audience give it like a 7.5, and we're giving it an 8. So there's obviously a disconnect between critics and viewers, and I think that has to do with a combination of the morality, because critics tend to be very left-leaning, the morality of the death penalty, and or taking matters into your own hand, while at the same time borderline exploiting race relations and the struggle of Black people in order to tell the story. Especially, even though this back then the woke thing wasn't yet like a thing, it's a white writer, writing about a white lawyer, is like the white savior complex, directed by a white German filmmaker. Like, it's got all the signs of like early wokeness would be very against this. So I think that's one of the reasons why the critics probably like just put it down a few notches for that. But that said, it's definitely worth the discussion. That's one of the many things I thought was like worth discussing here. So yeah, but if you have any more thoughts before Jason and I respond.
We should definitely go into that later.
Yeah. Into what later?
Oh,
everything you just said.
Oh yeah.
In further detail.
We can go into spoilers and then we can.
It's not that I have any problems with how things panned out in the movie. I don't have any issues with that. My question is basically, did the author or any of the filmmakers involved have like a really broad understanding of the law? And if that's true, did they come down on the ultimate ending of the movie with an idea of, hey, Samuel L. Jackson was actually legally right, or did they come up with some kind of a there is such a thing as jury nullification, and I mean, I would bump this movie up to a 9.5 if they just came out and said, like, hey, after what Matthew McConaughey said, just imagine she's white. Just imagine that you're in the same situation. The jury just said, fuck the law. Fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck it in the neck. Fuck the law.
I definitely don't think that's the way they saw it, by the way.
Right. I would just, I'm just saying not guilty because I know that I would do the same fucking thing. If it were just clearer.
To some degree, yes, but I think, and then I was gonna ask Jason if he guessed like what other movie I compare this to, for the whole like, now imagine she's white, but I think what happens to the jury there, that's funny enough in the book, it doesn't happen that way. In his summation speech, like he doesn't say that. He has a fairly good. What?
What's he say in the book?
He says a lot of the same stuff, like trying to like reiterate like why the psychiatrist from the psychologist from the state was not like both psychologists, like blah blah blah, like relating it as much as possible, except for going that one step further. And what happens in the book, and it's interesting, what's the calculation there of Grisham, is that the jury deliberates several days and they can't come to a conclusion. And eventually, like this one woman in the jury says like, okay, I'm going to tell you this, just listen to me. And then cut to, they have a decision. They come out not guilty. And then after all that, like the lawyer character and kind of like an epilogue, he goes to the woman's house, the jury, and he asks her what happened because he knew her or something. I don't know. It's a small, small town. And she tells him that she said that she made the argument to the jury, and not only does she say, imagine she's white, it's like, imagine that the two rapists were black. Like, would you then feel like that a white man with his white daughter being raped would be in the right to kill two black men who raped his white daughter? And obviously that's even more to the extreme, especially in a racist society. Like there's no doubt.
You see how that's just like excellent work by Schumacher and whoever wrote the script,
Goldsman, Kiva,
to adapt this, because that's just so much story right there. But like being able to just take the guts of everything you just said and put it into one powerful moment with McConaughey finishing his final statement. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and I will say my experience of reading this book, I mostly just wanted to experience a Grisham book. And because I found this book in my neighborhood, my last neighborhood that I lived at, like some neighbor put it on the street with a box of books, and I was like, oh, time to kill. Maybe I'll read it someday. And 2 years later, I sat down and read it. But yeah, I just wanted to experience like what his writing is like and stuff. And I knew I liked the movie. But yeah, I definitely have a lot of appreciation for Akiva Goldsman because, he's the way he condensed in the book while keeping so much of the big points Like how it'll take 4 scenes and make it into one scene. Like it's amazing. Like adapting a book is like an art form, and it really feels like he leaves very little out. He just does everything in so much more efficient ways, which is why I feel like movies are a superior medium. But in any case, but books have their place. I understand it's a different medium, and if you enjoy it and you have the time to put in so much, like 10, 12 hours for a book versus like 2.5 hours for a movie, that's fine. To me personally, it takes me 6 months to a year to read a book because I read one chapter a week or something. I should like maybe read 2 chapters a week. I'll be quicker, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's so efficient while leaving a lot of it in. And but I was talking to Diana and is like, well, I was thinking like maybe it made sense in the book because there's something about giving power to the jury to make the decision, but it's so much stronger that the protagonist, the lawyer, is the one that comes up with the solution. Also, another thing that they do more in the movie, not to mention it's good that he then doesn't go to the 2 black rapists, because that just shows that like the way that's going to convince racist people as if you use racism against them. That's not good. That you don't want to go one step further. You just want to tell them like, what if she's white, and stop it there. And that's exactly what they did. But also in the movie, I noticed that Carly Haley is a lot smarter and more sophisticated. Generally, the book is more racist than the movie is. That's flat out what I'll say. Like, Carly is a confused individual. He doesn't know what he's doing. At some point he fires Jake when the NWSCP, like when they come in with their lawyer, like that whole scene, that was one scene. It's like 20 pages in the book. Like he fires him and then he comes, is like, what the fuck? And then it's like, no, but I got a free lawyer, and he's like a hotshot lawyer. As they go back and forth, after 10 pages, he decides to go back to Jake, and then he fires and then they have the scene where he tries to get the money out of them and all that. Like, it's so much more efficient in the movie, and just shows that Carly Haley is very savvy. And also during the trial, Carly comes up with some of the best moments. It's like, ask him like if he thinks I should go to jail. Like to Chris Cooper, which is one of the best performances in the movie. Chris Cooper is always like a scene stealer.
He is.
But so there's a lot of these like slight changes. But it is interesting. I mean, overall, I feel like the movie does a better job in just being more even kill and not playing into the race part too much, trying to be more of a healing thing more than just. The book has like a lot of N-word left and right, and it's not exactly a racist as saying it in dialogue. It's literally in the prose. Like, why would you use the N-word in the prose? Like, why is the storyteller racist? But the storyteller is like all-knowing in the book, if I'm not mistaken, unless I misread like what's the point of view there. But so the book's got some problems, but which are mostly fixed in the movie, but. There is that question of ethics and all that, but what I was going to say about what Matt said is that obviously this whole time, and what this movie completely relies on, and is the insanity plea, is what he does in the end is he convinces them, is like, you can't be convinced that a black person would lose his mind and will go on a crime of passion of killing these 2 men that raped his daughter, because you can't relate to him. And Carly tells him they can't relate. You can't relate. That's why we're not on the same part of town. We're not on the same side. So he does this speech in order for them to be able to relate, meaning like, you know what? I would have lost my mind if somebody raped my daughter, and I would have tried to kill them. Not that it's the right thing to do, not that he's innocent, is that he is insane. In that span of few days, he is insane. Like, if you're a black person that knows that the system sucks, especially in the South, and that most likely 2 white men will get off. They say that at some point that like there's like another past cases where the like white men got off when they heard black people in the South. So it's like he knows. And also Carly is so calculated. He knows that if he waits till the trial to see if they're convicted or not, the insanity plea will no longer work. It only works as a crime of passion if you do it days after, like while you're still in trauma. If you do it 2 months after they're like released from jail, obviously that's a premeditated murder. So
but obviously, if you know, then by definition, you are not insane, and therefore you are operating, understanding what's going on in your brain, and so on and so forth.
no, of course, yeah. I mean, you can
it's
make an
just,
argument that
like,
you can always make an
well,
argument that he might have known what he's doing. I mean, he definitely knew what he was doing,
that
but he couldn't
I mean
stop
that
himself.
oh, I mean that adds the moral complication, which I think is fun for the movie. I don't want to. Geez, the word "fun" is a little weird, but
Eh,
like, just how do we discuss the moral implications of this? Because
I think you're
again,
overthinking it, Matt.
Yeah. Well, because I will say,
maybe.
Matt, like,
Yeah,
because
I
both
mean,
of us are no longer for the death penalty. Like, we've evolved on, I don't know when you evolved, but like I
yeah,
used to be for it when I was younger, but for me it was mostly like free will and some of that stuff that like I kind of like, and just going more left in general with my politics in the last decade
yeah.
or two. I definitely like have. That's one of the reasons why I'm no longer for the death penalty. And it is funny that McConaughey is so gung ho about it, and he's got the whole scene with Sandra Bullock, who was like
It's a good
against it.
scene.
Yeah, but and she still wants to fuck him. I don't know, but but yeah,
More on
it's
that later.
yeah, but but to me it's that's one of the reasons why I wanted to revisit the movie, because like I'm all along is like, wait, there's a problem in A Time to Kill. I am really not on Carly Haley's side. Like, that is not the solution. Like, we should not take matter into our own hands, and especially not death. I get it that 10 years, 5-10 years of whatever they would get for rape is not just.
They probably would have gotten off.
And they might have gotten off altogether, but still, it's unfortunate, but that's not the way to move forward. Violence is never the solution, unfortunately. But at the same time, once you watch the movie, it's like, Grisham is not an idiot. Like, he was a lawyer. He knows the law, and he understands psychology. And he says, like, yeah, I mean, if somebody rapes your daughter a day or two after, you're gonna try to kill them. Like, it's a crime of passion. You could see that, like, somebody being so demented in the head, like, not right, can't sleep at night. All he can think of is, I want to kill them. I want to kill them. I want to kill them. Even if he plans the murder, that's because all that's on his mind is kill, kill, kill. That's not a stable person. And obviously it's Jake's fault for not stopping him, because that's one of the issues of the movie, that Jake's his fault, and which is why also the motivation he has to see this through, because he feels at fault for the death of those two men. But
Yeah.
it is a very complex story. But he thought about it. Is it perfect? It's not perfect, but it's interesting. It doesn't fall completely apart, is all I'm saying, as far as
I don't think it falls apart at all.
Okay, Jason, go ahead.
I'm just saying. I mean, I think the point you guys are talking about, like the point of the movie and the sticky, morality of it and everything like that. I mean, obviously, like most good movies, they want you to talk about and think about it yourself, not just to be handed the answer on a platter and hammered into your head or anything like that, But I mean, I think what is this movie saying? It's pretty simple. It's saying that perhaps it is okay to take the law into your own hands when you're in a situation where you know that the system will fail to be even remotely just. Not even like they're not going to get punished enough. Like, it's not going to be even close to what justice should be. And at least for this movie, it seems like the answer to that is yes, that perhaps it is. And then at the end, they kind of tack on a little side thing. I wouldn't call it a second point. It's just kind of like building on the first one. But I think that it's also trying to kind of say, why is the system like that? And can it be fixed? And the answer would be, it's like that because it's nearly impossible for us, especially at the time that this is taking place, to see eye to eye, or as Gil said, to relate. And of course, in the movie, he manages to make the jury relate, which is the miracle of the movie. But then, of course, the final question, the final scene of the entire movie, and since I mean, like Gil said, this movie is largely trying to bridge the gap. It's trying to be a positive influence between the two characters and everything. It's can this be fixed in our society? And the answer they give is yes, by way of the future generations. It's a very optimistic outlook at the end.
Yeah, like if they start playing, that's what Diana was saying at the end of the movie. Is like, see, that's how that starts. Like if you have your kids play together, then
Exactly.
they grow up, they become like, friends, like
he's
life.
saying, because remember,
it's precisely what Martin Luther King was writing about in the 1970s.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's that moment where they're at the end, and I wish I'd gotten a chance to re-watch this part, but I didn't quite get to it before we filmed this. But if I recall correctly, it's like right before the end of the trial when it's kind of like all hope is lost moment, and all they have left is the final bit, and it's just a scene with Sam Jackson and McConaughey. And he's like telling him, he's like, Jake, you're my secret weapon. Why do you think I even went with you in the first place? He's like, you have to make them see. And he says, like, you think we're friends? He's like, we're not the same. He's like, you think when this is all over, like that we'll just be friends? You think that we're going to actually like spend any time together? And when, he says, we live on opposite sides of the town. Why do you think we live on totally different parts of town? Because that's the way society is, basically. And that ending where he does come to his house, he does come to a barbecue, and come over. He's not saying you're wrong, and showing up, even though he did show up. He's saying you're right. We are different, and perhaps we'll never be able to truly see each other the same way as we should. But our kids might.
Yeah. Which is like, exactly. It's not too sappy where like we can be friends. Like, no. Let's face it. Yes, we grew up different. Although, I mean, you see the connection that he has with Looney, the Chris Cooper character. Like they did grow up together, and they do have a connection, and he relates to him.
I mean, it's not supposed to be like literal. It's not supposed to be that like that generation was lost.
Yeah. It's just like
kind of a metaphorical.
Jake's character is like an educated, like law school. Like he is not the type of white person that would hang out with like an uneducated.
And it's not even, the movie's not even trying to say that people can't change or that people of two different backgrounds can't find the thing. It's just trying to say that in general, there is a division. There are many divisions within our societies, and some of it's racial, some of it's has to do with economic class, some of it has to do with where you live. Just there's all these things. We all know this to be true, and the movie's not trying to be too sappy and too ridiculous in its optimism. It's not trying to say, and then when it was all over, they became best friends. Sam Jackson has a really good point at the end that the problem is that society, people on these opposite ends can't see eye to eye. It doesn't necessarily mean he's literally saying McConaughey and him, but he's kind of, using them as examples. And then at the end, their kids playing together is an example. It's just kind of trying to be, clever.
Yeah. Jason, did you so what was what was your guess as far as like the moment?
I mean, I don't know exactly what you were thinking, but I mean, I could just tell you that maybe I don't know if this has anything to do with what you were going to say or not. I was just going to say the end of this movie, to me, I remember watching it on cable. I don't know how old I was. I have to assume junior high, maybe something like that. Maybe like 97, 98 or something. But I mean, I just feel like this is a movie that I think that this was their intention, and I hope it was their intention, because it's what happened to me when I watched it. But my experience watching this movie is almost like being a member of the jury who happens to be partial to all the stuff that happens to the to one side. So therefore you're like already on their side, you know? But it's like you're watching this thing, and when he makes his closing remark, like you want to you're on his side more or less. I feel, you certainly want McConaughey to win. You don't want Kevin Spacey to win.
Yeah.
The whole system is rigged against them, so they're like total underdogs. And I just feel that line at the end is so powerful, because at least for me personally, I know that this was a movie that made me kind of, I guess, examine my own, like, racial shortcomings, at least to some degree anyway. I remember watching this and just already being like, yeah, I want McConaughey to win. I want Sam Jackson to get off. I don't want him to go down for this. But then when he says that speech, I just remember being moved. I was just like, I was like, wow, I guess it's like, because you kind of, if you've seen movies about trials, right? You've seen movies like this before. It's not like it's anything new. It's a genre, it's almost like a subgenre that can be in most other genres, almost any other kind, and I don't know. It's not like it's a big surprise what the outcome is or anything like that. It's not a M. Night Shyamalan twist or anything. It's just, when he says that line, it's like, I just remembered for the first time I watched it thinking, like, I didn't see it coming. And when he said it, I just felt something. I was just like, oh my God, I didn't think that was coming. I didn't see that angle.
Yeah, even though multiple times throughout the movie and the book, countless times, is like, what if it was your daughter? What if it was your daughter? What if it was Hannah, like his daughter?
Yes.
Like, they talk about a lot of white daughters here, but it's different when he says the word.
When he says
it tells the whole story. Close your eyes. Now imagine she's white. That's like a very different effect. Yeah.
I just remember watching this, I didn't close my eyes because movies are a visual medium, but I kind of was in a little bit of a semi-trance, just mesmerized by McConaughey and by the camera work and everything. And I'm sitting here watching the reactions of the people's faces, and I'm going like, yeah, he's doing it. He's doing it. Like, he's gonna somehow find a way. And then when he said that, I was just like, oh shit. And I just like had to like think about my whole life.
Yeah, your whole life flashes. Am I racist?
Yeah, well, that's a funny way of saying it, but it's like, what it is it's like, I guess it's like you already were on their side, but then when he says that, you almost, to me at least, I'm just gonna say for me, I guess when he said that, it made me go, why did I feel that?
You understand the divide that Carl Lee brings up.
It's like, even though I was already on their side, I suddenly was like, wow.
You're way on their side.
Yeah, it's, you know what? We're tiptoeing around this so much. It's the moment of catharsis. It is the moment of catharsis for the movie.
Well, catharsis to me, the moment that made me cry, obviously, is like when he exits the court and his daughter's there. I was like, I bawled, like no movie had made me happy cry more than. It's like, how does a movie have someone kill two people, but when he gets off with a not guilty, insanity plea on a very complicated case, and goes hug his daughter, I could not be happier. That's like, just, you got to clap just for the fact that he put this whole shindig together. It's like this confluence of things, like somebody murdered two people, but I have tears of joy when he gets to hug his daughter. And it's all stupid, because I'm sure he hugged his daughter when they had visitations in prison, but they spare you that because they want you to like have this hug in the end.
Well, which as a free man, it's different.
As a free man, because there's something about like, he killed these two men. in order to call his daughter's cry in the woods that he never responded to. Like, he could not protect his daughter. It broke his heart. But
Yeah.
but the fact that he killed them, he has done something to make up for his failure as a parent to protect her. It's emotional stuff. I mean, even though two people are dead and, you know, one guy loses a leg and there's other people who get hurt in this movie, I mean, he deserves that. Like, he and she deserves that. Like, she deserves that comfort. She's going to live with trauma for the rest of her life, but at least she knows her dad's got her back. Like, that's like so powerful. Like, I don't care how cheesy this movie is and how much beach reading it is. That is solid storytelling. If you can make someone feel that way, that's what good stories should do. And the movie did it way fucking better than the book. I had no effect. The book had no effect on me at any point. I was just going through the motions, reading the words. Like, it's very few. I've had books that made strong effects on me, but this one was not one of them. The movie, it's like a home run when it comes to those moments.
Wow.
I was gonna say, like, before I say the other movie, but Matt, did you have a similar reaction to the, like, Imagine She's White?
I'm still crying just thinking about it. So,
Damn good scene.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, like, the movie that reminded me of it when I saw it, even though it's not the exact same emotion or sequence, is Get Out. Like, the scene in
Really?
Get Out.
Which one?
Spoiler alert. I'll put a spoiler alert on this one. But in Get Out, I don't even remember the exact ending. But when he's outside of the house, like when he's on the road, and I don't know what was the situation. Like, his girlfriend is dead or something. Like, what was the situation? And
His girlfriend was complacent
or whatever it was. But in any case, when the cops show up, like when the sirens of the cops shows up, and it's supposed to be that you're happy the cops show up because he's finally saved. But what do we know in today's society is that if a black person is near someone who's like dead or injured and the cops show up, that's not necessarily a good thing. Like, so when people saw Get Out in the theaters, I didn't see it in the theaters, I think, but like a lot of people said there was a huge gasp in the audience, like, oh shit, he's fucked. The cop's gonna shoot him or something. Even though, let's face it, there's a good chance that it wouldn't have happened, and hopefully the cop that would show up would not be racist, is the fact that Jordan Peele set up this whole movie to have this payoff in the scene where the cops coming is not good news. And I know that both of you, especially Matt, as like heavy libertarians, are also not very pro-cop. But you know, it's a powerful scene. It's just like in The Time to Kill. I felt like I get it. Like, I don't know what it is to be a black person, but those kind of moments makes me two step closer to understand. So it's not necessarily that I'm racist. It's that I understand the divide and the way they could be seeing things from their point of view. Because as much as you think that movies make you see things from other people's point of view, it's not all there. Like, some movies succeed, and some movies like really, really succeed. Like, just like, and I think A Time to Kill and Get Out were two movies were like that got the closest to make you relate to like what a black person, like the point of view, whether it's like true or not. I'm not saying that it's warranted. I'm not saying that all cops are dangerous to black people. I'm just saying that like that's their perception, and that's a great dramatic point to make in a movie, I feel like.
Well, I mean, it probably makes you less racist to
Yes.
have that experience.
No. Yeah, that's the point. I'm just saying, but in
like,
the moment, I had to re-examine myself, like Jason said, like I'm sure I'm racist to some degree. It's like many things are nowadays. Everybody's on a spectrum, but I don't know. It's very sad. And but now we should finish up with Jason, I want to discuss the cast and the Sandra Bullock fling.
The or anything else,
or anything else. But I am curious what you had to say about the Sandra Bullock thing, because I heard one podcast about A Time to Kill where they discuss as like, I was like rooting for him to end up with Sandra Bullock type of thing. Like they were like in between. I mean, she's definitely very, very attractive in this movie and everything. So, and it's very interesting, like their dynamic and their chemistry.
I think they have incredible chemistry in this movie.
But at the same time, they do disagree on the death penalty. So I feel like eventually there was something about like Jake always was motivated by correcting the wrong he did by not stopping Carly from killing the boys. That I feel like he mostly was trying to keep his family together, and that's why he really, really tried not to have sex with her.
I just think that it makes the movie more interesting that he is a good man. He's not going to cheat on his wife or ruin his family, but there's an incredible sexual tension between them, and why not? It makes the story interesting. But I don't know. I didn't know this, but I was just reading the IMDb trivia. It says that the two of them dated a little bit after this movie. That nothing happened really. They just kind of remained friends or whatever. I think when you watch this movie, you look at their filmographies and go, why the hell did we not get some other movie with the two of them in it together? Even whether they were in it as romantic leads or not, like they've got great chemistry together. It's, and they ended up both having pretty awesome careers. It's kind of crazy that they never, did anything else together after this.
It's probably the motivation he had to not hire her is because of her looks. It's like the last thing I want is to be stuck in dark rooms with a hot woman for months at a time or weeks at a time while my wife is like away. Like I already cheated on my wife by getting drunk left and right. He's got this whole thing about like he only started drinking after his wife leaves town.
Oh yeah.
But let alone like actually cheat. But at the same time he realized that he needed the help, and the trial was really his main single-minded kind of goal. So he is like, I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna find a way to not fuck this woman. And in the book, there's a few scenes where like she really tries to seduce him. Like
really?
There's like a moment with her where she's disappointed that she doesn't get him, which is a bit like bitchy of her, being that she's highly educated.
I mean, she's human. I mean,
she's human.
He's a hot guy.
He's a hot guy. I mean, no, it's even though he's for the death penalty.
Yeah. I love the scene where they get drunk together, and then they right before the trial begins, and he goes to her motel and to check it out and make sure nobody's there because people have been terrorizing them, and then he probably makes the mistake, I would say, I think that's a fair judgment, of sitting on the bed next to her. And they just have this moment, and it's a very natural moment because they're both into the same things. Their careers are in the same basic thing, and they're dealing. They're comrades in arms now. They're working together towards this nearly impossible task, and they're just totally on the same wavelength, And there's that moment where he says something to her. I don't even remember. It's a long little bit that he says, but where he tells her, this is what you're going to do. And you have to go in there and think that Kevin Spacey is going to try and kill that man. And we're going to try and save him, whatever. That whole little bit, like there's a moment where he looks at her and he wipes the hot sauce off her mouth or something like that. And she kind of almost leans in for the kiss. And when it doesn't come, the look on her face is outstanding, because you just said right now in the book she practically tries to seduce him. In that scene, I don't know about you guys, I think the look on her face says volumes. I think it's like she's like, I want this to happen, but I'm not going to try and make it happen. But if he were to lean in, she would have gone for it right there in that moment. That's what I read on it. And I mean, obviously it's probably not the same as the book, but I don't know. I think that scene is really well done, and they have great chemistry.
Yeah. And then the rest of the cast, it's I did find it amusing that the two Sutherlands are like on opposing sides. But Oliver Platt was like was very good for sure.
Yeah.
And Sam Jackson.
Dutton.
I mean, even though early Sam Jackson was just outstanding. Was I guess was this right after like
Pulp
uh
Fiction.
Pulp Fiction? Like it might have been like during the time that
Yeah, pretty much right around then. Charles
yeah,
S.
like
Dutton was like at the height of his career, I feel.
yeah, I think this was like in production probably, or Pulp Fiction was being released, and then they realized like, oh my God, we struck gold. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you know,
And
um,
Ashley Judd is like so good as the wife. I mean, it's a very
yeah,
similar role to what she
the
has.
the sweat looks great on
Oh
her.
my gosh. Well, she looks great all the time. But yeah, she you know what, I was just so surprised when I looked it up right now is that I would have just by the way she looks in the movies. Obviously because she's got kids and stuff, but this movie and Heat both came out before Kiss the Girls. And in Kiss the Girls, she's playing like a 22-year-old like kickboxing college student or something like that, I think, if I remember correctly. And I just thought it was so interesting because in both those movies, she's like an adult mother in her 20s, you know? And I don't know. I just she's awesome.
One last of casting thing is not really casting, but that's why one of the reasons why it's nice to sit for the credits is I saw like Octavia Spencer played the nurse near the end with yeah, and I'm like, oh, that's crazy. I didn't recognize her in the moment. I recognized her like in the credits because it was like a dark scene and everything, and I didn't. It was very quick, but then she actually has multiple credits because you could only assume with they needed a lot of black actors, so they probably like doubled people up as extras and like
Had
different
people
scenes,
in the crowd scenes,
scenes and whatnot. But yeah, it's kind of cool. Like it's just like a outstanding cast for
even
sure.
the little roles have some slam dunks, like Anthony, I don't know how to say his last name, Anthony Heald, I think. Like he just always plays that swarmy guy that you want to hate, you know, like in Silence of the Lambs and stuff like that. And he's the
Doctor.
the doctor. And then like I mean, this is almost obvious casting at this point, but Kurtwood Smith, the guy who plays the Grand Dragon.
Yeah.
I mean, like I mean, he's just I don't even.
Yeah, I mean, the dad from that '70s show.
Yeah, I mean, RoboCop and all. I mean, he's great in everything. Even in like you know, what's that Christopher Lambert movie, the Fortress. I love that movie, but but yeah, I mean, he could just play a bad guy so easily, and he's so good at it and everything. But yeah, I don't know. It's like the list just goes on and on. It's just an unstoppable cast.
Yeah, and a lot of them I think were like in the early phases of their careers. Like Kiefer wasn't huge back then, and Kevin Spacey was just coming off of like Usual Suspects.
Mm-hmm.
And Sandra Bullock, like you said, I think it was the same time as Speed, right? Speed was 1994. Yeah, so exactly. See, it's the same thing. It's Speed and Sam Jackson, like and Pulp Fiction came out in '94. Yep. This was like in production, like it was like in pre-production or something.
Oh yeah,
at the time. Yeah, so it was like this cast, like it was just they got lucky. It's like really
talking about Sandra Bullock. I think I mean I love Sandra Bullock. She's great in most of her movies, but I think one of my favorite movies of her where she has a huge role is probably like Sleepless in Seattle. But or not sleeping while you were sleeping. Sorry. What I meant to say is
like,
that
is she that old?
while that is a good role of hers and stuff like that, I think there's no question that like this movie, Speed, and in a funny sort of way, Demolition Man are like where she's really at her like sexiest. Like I don't think you can top like this movie when she's like driving that little sports car around and just everybody in this whole movie is just drenched in sweat for some reason. Yeah. And it's like, wow, this girl just shows up, wants to help you with your case. You're about to like, lose the biggest career making case of your life. And then she's just like the perfect person to help you out. And she's like super hot. Yeah,
Yeah.
hard to top.
Yeah. No, it's I was trying to think. I stumbled onto like I think I might have mentioned this to you, but I stumbled onto like Demolition Man was playing on Pluto TV. Like they have this thing where like it's like live, like it's ongoing, and you can join the movie halfway.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, so I clicked on it. It was like the scene right before when they have sex, and I told them, oh, you should watch this. This is funny. The sex scene in Demolition Man.
That's a great movie.
Yeah. Cool. Any other thoughts? Anything you haven't covered, Matt, as far as like the movie itself?
Well, it is kind of funny that we've got the father Sutherland and the son Sutherland in the same movie.
Yeah.
IMDb said that this was the second movie that they did together. I think they've probably done about 4.
Yeah,
now,
but they were on opposite sides.
Yeah.
I was mentioning that. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely amusing. Although they're they don't look alike at all here because he had the beard and everything. So it's like Donald. So it's it sort of worked for people who don't know the actors.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
also the Judge Noose, I felt like was that actor was.
I was just gonna say
he was
in
he was in Braveheart.
He's Longshanks. Yeah.
Longshanks.
He's done a bunch of movies. That's probably the one I know him from. I think where I recognize his face, and everything.
Yeah.
Good movie.
Yeah. You don't have to leave this in there, but do you guys think that this is Schumacher's best film?
I think we could have brought this up in the beginning. Yeah, I mean, I to me it is, but I'm sure some will have. I mean, Falling Down is pretty popular. It's got like a cult following.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Batman and Robin is just a fucking masterpiece. So
yeah.
I will say I saw here in my ratings I gave Batman Forever. I gave it like a 7 because I think I was young back then when it came out, and I was like, this is awesome. I mean, come on, it's like Jim Carrey at his height and like Tommy Lee Jones. It's fun stuff. It wasn't as good as the Tim Burton stuff, but it was pretty good. But then like with the second one, it was like, no, you went too far. It's just too far.
I will still to this day, I will always say that while it's incredibly flawed, I do think that Batman Forever is basically like Citizen Kane compared to Batman and Robin. But
yeah, Nicole Kidman was like.
I think we all looked at. I think we all looked at Batman Forever with a little bit of nostalgia because for me it was the first one I saw in theaters. I was not my parents. Yeah, but first Batman. My brother got to see Batman Returns when he and my dad came home from the theater. The report was it was a little dark for me at the time, being as young as I was. And in the now years later, as I went back and watched them all, and then I try to be objective about them, and especially comparing them to modern comic book movies and stuff like that. I mean, I think both of the Batman Returns and Batman Forever have like a lot of problems, but I think they also both have some like really special things in them. So it's like, Batman Forever is kind of fun, even though it's got really serious problems.